She stood in my driveway with her arms crossed, sunglasses on, barking orders like she owned the entire neighborhood. "You can't park here," she shouted, her voice slicing through the quiet morning air. I looked around, confused. "My house, my land, my name on the deed," I said to myself. But before I could even reply, she raised her phone toward me. "I'm calling the cops." I blinked. "For what?" I asked calmly. "You're violating HOA rules," she snapped. "No work trucks on driveways." "This isn't a construction site," I almost laughed. "Ma'am," I said, trying to stay polite, "I'm not part of your HOA." That's when she smirked. The kind of smirk that told me she thought she ran everything. "Oh, everyone here is part of it. You moved in. You follow my rules," she said proudly. She actually said my rules. Before I could even respond, she was already talking to 911. "Yes, officer. We have a man trespassing and refusing to follow HOA codes," she said, pacing in front of my truck like she was protecting royal property. I stood there, caught between irritation and amusement. This woman was so sure of her authority she didn't even bother to ask who I was. A few minutes later, a patrol car rolled in. The officer stepped out, looking tired. "Sir," he said, "we got a report of a disturbance." Karen jumped in before I could speak.
He's the one.
"Violating HOA rules and threatening me." I smiled and reached into my jacket. "Officer," I said calmly, "before you say anything else, you might want to see this." I handed him a folded document with signatures and a shiny county seal. He unfolded it, scanned the first few lines, and his face changed instantly. He looked at me, then at her. "Ma'am, you said this man doesn't belong here?" She crossed her arms. "That's right. He's not a member of our HOA." The officer nodded slowly. "You're right about that," he said. She smiled smugly. "Because," he continued, "he's your new landlord." Her face froze. The color drained from her cheeks as she turned toward me, realizing what the paper really was. I smiled. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I bought the whole block last month." For the first time, Karen had nothing to say. The next morning, I stepped outside to grab my mail. And there it was, a bright yellow notice taped to my door. Bold letters screamed, "Notice of HOA violation." I read it slowly. "You are in violation of community guidelines. Remove your vehicles, repaint your house, and attend an emergency HOA meeting tonight, or face legal action." At the bottom, it was signed in fancy cursive, Karen H. Acting HOA president. I couldn't help but grin. Acting president, huh? Funny thing. I'd already checked with the county office the night before. The HOA had been officially dissolved 2 years ago. She was running a fake HOA all by herself. So I decided to play along. That evening, I walked to her house for the meeting. The driveway was full of neighbors, some tired, some scared to speak up. Karen stood in front, clipboard in hand, pretending to run her little empire. When she saw me, her smile tightened. "You're not supposed to be here," she hissed. "Oh, I'm exactly where I should be," I said calmly, holding up the notice. "You posted this on my door." Her tone flipped from fake sweet to venomous. "You think you can move in and ignore our rules?" "Not happening. This neighborhood is mine." The crowd went silent. You could feel the tension. I looked around. "Anyone here ever see actual HOA papers? Meetings, elections?" A few heads shook. An older man spoke up. "Karen just kind of took over after the old board left," Karen snapped. "Enough! I'll call the cops again." I raised my phone. "No need," I said, tapping the screen. A video began to play. The county clerk herself confirming that our community had no active HOA. Gasps spread through the crowd. "That's fake." Karen stammered, but her voice trembled. "You sure you want to go down that road again, Karen?" I asked softly. "Last time didn't go so well for you." She froze, her bluff crumbling in front of everyone. The neighbors began whispering, realizing they'd been bullied for years by someone with zero authority. Karen's hand shook as she pointed at me. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "Oh, I know exactly who I'm dealing with," I said, stepping closer. "And soon so will you." 2 days later, I heard boots on my porch. When I opened the door, 2 men stood there in fake uniforms, cheap badges, clipboards, and smug faces that screamed Karen sent us. "We're from County Code Enforcement," one said. "You're under inspection for illegal property modifications. Got any ID?" I asked. He flashed something that looked like it came off Google Images. I smirked. "Nice try. Karen's getting creative." Before they could respond, her voice echoed down the sidewalk. There he is. Don't let him talk his way out. Karen marched up, recording everything on her phone like she was breaking a crime story. You're done here, she shouted. These men will make sure your fake ownership papers don't save you. I sighed, took out my phone, and hit a button. My security cameras turned toward us, lights blinking red. You sure you want this on record, Karen? I asked. She scoffed. You think I'm scared of your little toys? Just then, real sirens wailed down the street. 2 sheriff cruisers pulled up, lights flashing. Karen's smile faded as real deputies stepped out. The sheriff looked at me and nodded. Everything okay here, boss? Karen blinked. B-boss? I turned to her slowly. I told you before. You didn't know who you were dealing with. I'm your new landlord, and he's your sheriff. The fake inspectors were cuffed immediately. Turns out Karen had paid them to try and scare me off the property. Neighbors peeked from their porches, whispering as it all unfolded. Karen shouted, You can't arrest me. This is my neighborhood. Oh, I'm not, I said quietly. They are. The sheriff read her rights as she stood frozen, tears of rage running down her face. You're being detained for harassment, trespassing, and impersonating county authority. A few neighbors clapped. Others just looked relieved. One woman whispered, Finally. I watched as the patrol car drove away. For the first time, the street felt peaceful, calm, free. A small boy from next door ran up and asked, Mister, are we safe now? I smiled and patted his shoulder. Yeah, kid. No one's going to tell us how to live on our own land again. That night, I sat on my porch, the wind gentle and the lights warm. I looked down at the deed papers and said quietly, I didn't serve this country to be pushed around in my own home. Somewhere out there, Karen was realizing she had picked the wrong man to mess with, because you should never start a war on someone's land when he owns the battlefield.